Prime Minister Hun Sen was so confident leading into this election that he took the unusual tactic of not personally campaigning. But he's now acknowledged this election was one of the most closely contested of his career. David Chandler has served with the US Foreign Service in Phnom Penh and is a leading expert on Cambodian history. He's now an emeritus professor at Monash University in Melbourne. David Chandler, thanks for coming on the program.
You're welcome.
The opposition leader has rejected the results of this election. Do you believe he has a case, so to speak?
I think he might have a case that there's been some irregularities in the election. There is in all Cambodian elections, but I think it's a pretty abrupt action for him to take before the votes have really been finally counted, the final results are in. I think he's... I was a bit surprised that he'd come out as sharply as that today. We'll have to see how it plays out.
This may have been a win for Hun Sen, but the opposition clearly took a lot of votes away from the ruling party. I think they got 45% of the seats in the Assembly. Does this mean that it's going to make it a lot harder for the Prime Minister to rule his way?
Yes, he's got to start thinking about some new methods of rule. He's got to appropriate some of the planks in the opposition's platform. I think he's got to make himself more accessible to the young voters who are decisive in this election. I think he's got to, yes, he's got to change a bit of his direction and his speed. He's a very adroit politician. I don't think he's going to go just straight ahead with his old methods unless he's provoked. And if he's provoked, he can be quite a dangerous character. So I hope this kind of abrupt action on Sam Rainsy's part doesn't encourage him to be a little bit more abrupt be a bit less statesmanlike than he probably wants to be at this time.
Do you think the opposition coalition would have done so well if it wasn't for those younger voters?
Not at all. I have a feeling the urban younger voters particularly were decisive, but I think also social media and all over the country, there's millions of cell phones in the country, millions of people are talking to each other, which gets away from the smothering of the normal media, press, TV and so on by the government. And there's a lot of people I think have been talking politics for quite a while, and this is a different atmosphere in Cambodia. And these, of course, would be young people primarily rather than older ones, people who can access the technology.
Now, Hun Sen has been in power for almost 3 decades, and he's been widely criticised from both within the country and from foreign governments over what they say is his monopoly on power and his intimidation of critics. Do you think we're going to see any real changes following this election?
I don't think he wants to lessen his hold on the grip on the country. I think he may want to change some of his methods. Might want to, as I say, if he's provoked, he might do some unstatesmanlike things. If not provoked, he might try to become a little more liberal, a little more quicker on his feet than he's been. A little coming from being slightly worried because he never was worried before. So, but I don't see him changing his spots, as it were. He's not the kind of character who does. He's not ashamed of anything he's done. He's quite proud of his record, and I think he wants to stand by it. He just may change a few little methods.
Now, despite the criticism levelled against Prime Minister Hun Sen, he has delivered some real tangible improvements in the day-to-day lives of Cambodians, hasn't he?
Oh, very much so. They've got a 7% growth rate every year now. There's lots and lots more employment, lots more possessions, motorcycles and so on. Housing is better. The roads are better. He provides schools that he says he provides personally, which is paid by other people. But there's a lot of advancement and development in the country, and he takes credit. He and his party, the CPP, the ruling party, take credit for that. And a lot of people in the country, certainly, well, the majority in the election, if the figures are accurate, agreed with him that this is the party that has delivered the goods to them, enough development to make them happy.
But have a lot of those improvements come through foreign aid?
Some of them have. A lot of them have come through forced donations from some of the very rich people in the country. That doesn't amount to a national taxing system, but Hun Sen demands donations to the party from these people that then pay for development projects in the countryside. The ones that are provided by foreign aid are usually not credited to the foreign aid people who give it. They're usually said this is a CPP project, but that's, yeah, a lot of it has been due to foreign aid, which is still quite massive in Cambodia. The foreign aid is over $1 billion a year coming in there.
Some of the foreign aid, as I believe it, goes towards improving governance, or is meant to go towards improving governance, yet NGOs and the opposition says the country is still rife with corruption. Is this a reason perhaps for withdrawing some of that aid or putting conditions on foreign aid?
Well, I think there are conditions on. I mean, the United States, I know, puts conditions on its aid, puts quite a few strings on it. China gives no strings at all, which Hun Sen has openly said, I prefer this kind of aid. No strings means we're in charge of the aid projects rather than someone else. The governance projects have never gotten very far. I think they've exaggerated their chances of success, because these would be projects that would undermine the successful system of governance that Hun Sen's in charge of. And he doesn't want to be undermined, and he doesn't want foreigners to change his modus operandi. So there's been a lot of pressure to do this, particularly from America, but other countries, and they're unsurprisingly not been successful. I'd say sadly also. I'd like to see them succeed, but that's an outsider's view, and I'm not a Cambodian.
The opposition lost this time around, but they did manage to take quite a few votes from the ruling party, which surprised the ruling party itself and Prime Minister Hun Sen. Do you think that there's some optimism or some chance that next time around, given they did so well this time, they may be able to unseat Hun Sen?
I think this is the hopes of the unspoken hopes of all of them. I think they hope to unseat him this time, and I think some of them thought they may have done that, and that's why the leader has said the elections are illegitimate. But I don't think it's a very likely prospect in the next few years. And what unseating would involve a great, enormous changes in Cambodia. I mean, they would have to be able to, after unseating him in the National Assembly, they would then have to be able to assume control over the army, the police, the civil service, the whole taxation and development system that Hun Sen has managed. That's going to be a harder thing to do than to gain the necessary seats.
Now, Hun Sen has said he'd like to rule until he's at least 74. He has his 3 sons primed to take over, his 3 US-educated sons. If one of them did take over, what would we expect? Much the same in terms of the way the country is ruled?
These sons are capable young men, and if they took over today, I think you could see some changes. If he turned over and said, no, young people have been acting in this election, now you would have to reach out. I don't think that's his nature to do that. I think he definitely wants to stay another 14 years. And then these people themselves would be middle-aged and be out of touch with an even younger group of people coming up from behind, if you like. So I think some of the opposition would probably like to see these people in power sooner.
David Chandler, thanks very much for coming on the program.
You're welcome.